I'm going to share a presentation for you all and remind you a little bit about our great products. So, Zinzino omega-3, it's my special subject, and I'm working mostly in all of the population. So health in public health, but the public have these different segments, different groups, and kids are one of them, who actually stands out and differs from older adults, from people that are sick, from people that are pregnant, which they can have similar traits in their metabolism or how they use nutrients. But kids, they grow and they create new cells. So with children, these topics are a little more important, a little more in the details for everyone to listen to. And regarding kids, you usually hear the first 1,000 days and how much they matter for child health. And that is true, because the health for children starts already in the mother's womb. And one of the things that are continuously recommended, besides, of course, folate for the mother, but we have vitamin D. Also, often omega-3 is recommended in the first and also before the first trimester. And omega-3 is constantly a source of or essential fats that you need to give extra to the mother. And that's also one of the nutrients that we see in dietary statistics that the general population don't get enough of. And besides that, we have iron, for example, and calcium, choline, but also iodine and polyphenols or antioxidants in the diet. And this continues, and omega-3 continues to be one of the most important nutrients for children. And why is that? It's one of the major reasons is because of this essential fatty acids and marine fish fats, DHA and EPA. They are within, they build the brain of the children, and they are so important for the brain structure, as you see when they fill up with the different cells in the brain. So from an early stage to about somewhere in the beginning of the third trimester, the brains grow so fast, and that is why it's very important for the mother to have nutrients either within her system since before pregnancy and during pregnancy, but also in her diet to constantly fill those levels of herself and to the baby. And this is an example. This is not human brain cells. This is from a tadpole. And you can see this is a normal 4-day-old and a 6-day-old neuron. So you see the growth of it and the spread like a beautiful tree. And then we can compare it with a neuron in a DHA deficient tadpole. So the deficiencies have an influence on the brain growth and development of the children. And this continues after birth. It continues. The human brain development. We have birth here, and you will see here is birth, and you will see that to about 16 years of age, things will still happen in the brain, but a lot of the things that happens within the first 2 years with brain development. And the thing is, when we want to give advice and we want to be able to say something about children's blood levels, we need to know, or we know, that children's omega blood levels are different from adults. So they have, because they are different in how they are, the cells are not only dividing, but they're also maturing. And so the structure in the cell are different. And you can see this, that something is different if you take the whole population of our database, people that take supplements or people that don't take supplements, everyone, you can see the children, the balance value of the children is higher. And I know that the dietary habits have an influence on why we can see this line, this curve. But also something else is the reason for having higher balance values. And we can find in the literature, we do see that for children, the omega-3 index, that's usually 8% for adults, have been suggested to be 6 or more for children. And that's because children have natural higher omega-6 blood levels. So that is why children have a higher the optimal balance value. But here we can see the 3 different consumption groups. We have the no omega-3 group, the user of other brands, and the balanced oil group. And when we see levels that are really high for children, we cannot say, oh, it's because they should have higher balance values, because not that much higher. Children do have too high arachidonic acid or omega-6 in their system, or actually too little omega-3s in their system. And what we can see if we go down to the balanced oils group is that this line is more flat. So the suggested, the calculated new ratio for or balance value for children that we have on 5 is almost true for everyone, but not completely. And that's why we're going to look at the next aspect that we have corrected, and we do think about in Zinzino, is that besides that we are the first company that have tailored target values for children, of course, so we have also thought about that the dietary need, the need to eat, is higher. They have different needs compared to adults when we look at kilo body weight. And you can also see that in this slide. First, look at the calories per kilo body weight is higher for smaller children and than for adults. So they burn more of the essential fats than an adult. So if you follow this line, if it were only to be bad habits or only the structure or the differences in cells, this line would be straight. And if we get it straight, the 5:1 ratio for kids would be exactly where the children is. So what we discovered is that the dosage for children is too low. And that is why we have started to recommend higher doses for children up to 10 years of age. And in this, we also made a new flavor, a flavor that is supposed to be fun, and also one of the top choices of the children that was in the group trying to find the best flavor. So the Tutti Frutti Balance Oil, and this gave us also the opportunity to write this child dosage on the label, and to explain also on the web page the differences between adults and children, and to be more targeted toward children. However, children can take any of the balance oils. So if you have a child that likes orange lemon mint, just use this dosage instruction with 0.20 milliliter per kilo body weight on any of the other flavors. And for the adults that of course can take the 30 flavors, you use the adult dosage. So I would also like to show you a web page that we have for you to get all of the information. If I can find that slide. Oh, it was hidden. Let's unhide it. If this feels like a lot of information and you maybe will not be able to remember everything, then I would highly recommend you to visit the test webpage. And you go into the information and you find children. And here on this special part of the test webpage, you can go have a look and see, for example, that we have tailored instructions for how to take a test if you want to test your children. For small children that still are breastfeeding, you can instead test the mother, since the mother's blood level is going to reflect the breastfed child. But for older children and anyone else, you have these great tips on how you can take this test on children. And we also have the measurement guidelines for people that want to dive deep into the calculations, and the 5:1 optimal ratio for children and the 6% omega-3 level value that we have for children. You can read about that here, and you can also see, for example, differences in the health indicators between adults and children. We have more. We have tips and information about nutrients, about how to be more inspired to be able to cook fish, and also how to get children to want to try to taste different meals. So go have a read about that. But then we also have, and I want to emphasize this, about the flavor, and because oil is the best for a child to get the nutrients besides eating fish. Capsules, gummies, everything in that down that line works, but you will have more obstacles for the body to absorb it. So liquid fish oil together with, of course, the olive oil will be the absolute best way to gain more omega-3. But children have an innate dislike for oils. So I do understand the challenge of giving some children the oil. And if the flavor is, tutti frutti flavor doesn't do the job, we have, of course, the other flavors, but also aqua eggs. And aqua eggs, as you know, it can be, it doesn't have to, but it can be mixed with liquids. I take aqua eggs, and I take it as a shot without water. But you can mix it with water. That makes the oily sense of oil is not that strong, and easily, and you can mix it in different kinds of uses, such as Örjan told you about. And with every of this oil, you should really try the balanced shot. That was new to me. I didn't know about this before I started working at Zinzino, but it actually works, where you put fresh water and then oil, and then you take the whole shot, because the fat is going to go down much faster, and you will not have that oily taste in your mouth. Aqua eggs can also be a very good thing to try for children or adults that have a sensitive stomach, that can complain. about, for example, feeling a bit nauseous or feeling like it's almost like I want to throw up. That can happen. And then you should really try Aqua-X, since this helps with the absorption. If you have problem with the absorption, Aqua-X have this great delivery system, liquid micellar delivery system that works in the same way that the body do for us. This Aqua-X do. Otherwise, I thought that if we have time, that you could ask me questions. With
yes, we do have some times, and we do have some questions in the chat, Emily. So if you open up the chat, we've got from Vibeke, do we have any information research available to identify the target ranges that we use on the test result regards to the different markers?
Is it child specific or is it for adults? But I can answer both.
Answer both, because it wasn't specific. In general, she says.
Yes, general. Yeah, we do have the omega-3 index level that's been widely researched and are one of the most emerging marker for many different of the chronic diseases today. And that, together with the balance of omega-3 6, which can be sometimes misleading, since we do have the form of test with you have arachidonic acid through eicosapentaenoic acid. Those two fatty acids is what we are measuring in the balance. And that's actually the more reliable form to measure balance, since those two are the two biologically active omega-3 and omega-6. So sometimes you maybe heard criticism about omega-6 to 3 ratios, and then I can guarantee that they are always talking about all the omega-6 through all of the omega-3, because there we have found conflicts, since there are some omega-6s that are actually good for you and that do produce anti-inflammatory markers such as DGLA. And yeah, so that's what we know, and that's are in line. And we also have, for example, the brain strength marker, and there we have so much information that DHA is important, for example, in children. So for some groups, this could be more important, or if you see a very strange level of this brain strength value, you need to look into that, because you shouldn't only get EPA, you should also get the DHA, and that's well known, as I showed you in the slides.
So I think what Vibeke wants is your research library and what you refer to when you do further research for Zinzino. So maybe you want to, maybe we would have a way to share some of the research that you actually are looking at, and maybe linking more of these studies to the back office, as Vibeke is pointing out. We do have a big launch coming up at the annual event, which you are the main author of that project, I believe. And that is from our test database. Inside of that work, is there also referral to other studies that is reference links to the work of the database, which would give them actually access to a lot of what you're asking for here?
In the report where I'm the main author, you will have all of the references and more, but perhaps not in the general report that's been written by the marketing. I'm going to look that up, but I can tell you that
so the marketing, they are doing a synopsis of what we're going to publish. So, but in your publication, which will be released at the annual, I believe it is going to be released at the annual. I haven't double checked it, but I believe that's one of the subjects at the annual. I think I've seen that in the program. there will be then a massive amount of specific references to the work that we're doing. So if people are patient, then read that study when it's released, and you will get all of the, or maybe not all, but all of the things that we found valuable in the process. Correct?
Correct.
So let me see if there was any other questions relevant in chat. There is a question why we don't allow under the age of 3 on our test website anymore.
Oh, we allow them on the test website. You can be any age. So it's only when it comes to the recommended dosage where we, because of regulations.
Could you go back then to the team, because somebody here says that is not able to enter age below 3. I've not heard that before, so let's double check that.
Yeah, we will double check that.
Yeah, and if it's in every country or if it's just in specific countries.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I think that was what we had coming up. Thank you for a great presentation. I do believe that it is very, 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 very important to start early. And then it gets more important as you go through your life. That's kind of the conclusion. But I think that a lot of things can be avoided if you get every children to start with a balanced soil at an early age. So thank you. And it has the immediate effect and the long-term effect. And that's one of the beauties with the product. Now back to